welcome to the Red Alert Armory. Today we are going to be talking about a fairly expansive topic, which I hope will take longer than 10 minutes, we'll see. Our topic of the day is Tesla technology in Red Alert, primarily in Red Alert 2, but also a little bit in Red Alert 3. This technology gets its name from Nicola Tesla, a Serbian inventor born July 10th, 1856. The Austrian Empire. He is famous for many things, including alternating current, high voltage, high frequency power experiments, inventing many new and very interesting things for the world, but the one invention that you probably know him from, if you are a layman that is just playing the game, is the Tesla coil. Of course, everyone knows the Tesla coil. It's incredible looking, beautiful. And the Tesla coil in the Red Alert games is one of the main defensive buildings that they have. Incredibly powerful. Now, the Soviets' Tesla technology was based on theoretical and practical design specs created by Nikola Tesla, not by Tesla himself. Tesla had already been long dead by the time of the game, having died in January 7th, 1943 at age 86. All of the tech from the game was USSR patented devices. USSR, after the Second World War Red Alert version, adopted United States patent law and patented various Tesla technologies that they had apparently taken possession of before the United States had a chance to on the inventor's death. Now, I know that there are many different biographies of the inventor on YouTube, so I won't go too far into his history, but I will talk about a couple of things that he invented that might be able to explain some of the power generation that we are looking at when we look at the first and most important of the buildings that the Soviets use regarding his technology, and that is the Tesla reactor. Now, the Tesla reactor is a sort of enigma because we don't exactly know how it works. It appears to be a bulb of glass or metal with two large brick buildings on either side, pyloning it together with lightning coming out of the bottom. Now, this could be many things. For instance, a reactor, a Tesla reactor is what it's called. And a reactor is generally what we might call a nuclear reactor. That term is generally used for nuclear fission. And indeed, early versions of this reactor were simply large exposed reactor power plants. But this likely fell out of favor once the conventional reactors that the Soviets were producing shown to be much higher power generation and higher efficiency for the cost of the reactor. So this is likely not what it is, or it seems likely to not be the answer. One good reason why it is probably not a nuclear reactor is that it doesn't leave any radiation behind when it dies, which is important because the nukes and the nuclear reactor do leave behind radiation that kills infantry and vehicles. So it is likely this is not a nuclear reactor. It's also not likely a fusion reactor, as it is extremely unlikely that the Soviets at this time period had the technology to build something like that. No, it is two other possibilities that come to mind for me that could shed some light on this. The first is that inside that bulb we might see a bladeless turbine generator being used. And this is an invention that Tesla demonstrated in 1906 that could run at 16,000 RPM. Theoretically, this could be a 97% efficient machine, but Tesla never got it working because of the problems with the disks warping. Essentially, how this works is that you need a small amount of electricity to get it working, to push water or air through the turbine, which will then spin and then generate electricity that you could then feed into a loop. This makes some sense because on the description of the reactors goes that Tesla reactors are generators that produce a regenerative feedback loop of electricity that provides cheap, renewable energy to Soviet bases. An electrical current is created and stored in a large containment orb. When the amount of energy exceeds the containment capacity point, a breakdown occurs when the energy discharging into the base, which generates the vivid display light energy arc that creates a new light energy current. Although this makes a Tesla reactor cost effective, it produces the least amount of power compared to all other sources. Now, whether or not the Russians could have created a method for overcoming the warpage is unknown, but it is very possible that they just used the brute force of manufacturing power to simply replace the disks as soon as they begin to warp and use the energy generation in the meantime. This energy generation could be incredibly powerful and lead to the energy discharges once it goes above capacity. Another option is one that I think is much more interesting, and an idea that I got by talking to Bad Guy 292, one of the listeners. This idea stems both from the Tesla generators that the inventor theorized could be the purpose of the Grand Pyramids of Giza, and the Allies' use of weather control technology. Essentially, this Tesla technology, the technology of the Pyramids of Giza, is essentially using atmospheric static electricity to generate electricity that would then be distributed across larger areas wirelessly. And so the idea for the Tesla reactor is that somehow, possibly by generating extreme hot and cold air vents inside of its chassis, generates electricity that could then be used for the rest of the bases. This would be incredibly volatile, but depending on the type of weather going on and the conditions within the sphere. If Soviet safety protocols are anything to go by in the Chernobyl incident, it is likely that this is a very volatile piece of technology indeed. Either way, it is an incredible feat of engineering to gather electricity in either of these ways efficiently, and a real way to look outside the box, making this another good example of sci-fi technology that is also practical in the Command & Conquer games. This last theory also introduces a really fun little extra bit of lore that could mean that the two superpowers are locked in battle over the same general piece of technology, just utilizing it in different ways. Moving on, we come to the Tesla coils. And this one is a bit of a more confusing case because this includes the Tesla coil defense structure, and it includes the Tesla Trooper and the Tesla tank, and all of these have very well understood mechanics except for one part, which is how the hell do you get it to hit the target that you want it to hit? This is an extreme problem because electricity takes the path of least resistance, which can sometimes be a difficult path to predict. It could be that these vehicles and structures are very close range only and do not differentiate. So once you turn them on, you won't want to go within 10 meters of them. Or it could be that they have some sort of targeting system that makes the area around the enemy a much least resistant spot. They could do this by selectively ionizing a direction towards the vehicle before it fires somehow. In any case, the damage it does to vehicles and to people is undeniable. For people, this is an extremely high amount of voltage going through your body at once, causing lots of burns in your skin, on top of your skin, and in your nerves, and generally electrocuting you, possibly stopping your heart. It is definitely dangerous. But those are just normal lightning strikes. These are shown to be able to disintegrate people. Now, the amount of electricity needed to disintegrate someone is on the order of 2.9 gigajoules, which is much, much higher when we get out of the typical lightning storm. Yet, the Tesla coil technology that is in these troopers and these buildings can disintegrate people in a single strike and blow apart tanks. The energy requirements for these things are unbelievable. Far, far more than an obelisk of light. In terms of raw power, far outstrips it. There's another problem with the mole units and how they generate the electricity needed to shoot the bolt of lightning, but that is a problem for another time. These infantry vehicles and towers can fire over obstacles, around obstacles, and blast through solid walls. They could do just about anything, although they have a fairly short range, presumably, being very well outranged by the average tank or even the average rocket soldier. It is likely that these vehicles have the ability to shoot down rockets and mortars with their electrical discharges if they have forewarning. The amount of damage they do to their environment in the meantime with the discharging it into the ground or into the air is likely to be very large, so it is probable that this will not be done all the time. In Red Alert 3 we see entire fortresses with these lightning bolt casting towers lining the tops, meaning that in this particular version of Red Alert, the Soviets are even powerful enough to place them en masse, making them potentially much more powerful in the third game or in the second. That's about it here at the end of the video, but after reading so much about this sort of technology, it makes me very unhappy about having to walk under high power lines through industrial centers on my way to work. Maybe one of them is hiding around the corner, ready to vaporize me and my car in an instant. I have been Game Master Karakin, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I'll see you in the next video.